two of the greatest defensive backs in the history of the NFL.
Mm-hmm. And the jerseys we're wearing.
Yeah, what do you want to do?
I don't know. We don't have an intro. Welcome to the Glaziar Gaming podcast, episode 27.
I forgot.
No, I didn't forget. I was trying to think of what's something related to 27, and I was going to say, for Starbucks fans, it's a venti 7 for you. But, I don't know, it's kind of lame. We'll keep it in there.
Every time I say something now, you're going to have to turn your head sharp.
It hurts. Yeah, it really hurts. I did something to my neck, probably from shoveling snow, and I'm in quite a lot of pain, so we're going to push through this. This is our sports section. We have two sections of our podcast. We have Sports Marvel Entertainment, episode 27. We thank you so much for watching, viewing, and we thank you especially for liking and subscribing and following on Spotify if you're listening. So, especially thank you to those people. But if you're just watching, you're cute too. And so let's just start with our first topic. We like to start with NBA and then get into the meat of the conversation with Bacon and NFL. So the first thing is we have some Minnesota Timberwolves stuff immediately.
Okay.
Which starts with Dirk Nowitzki. And also, let me give you a quick rundown. We do have Timberwolves stuff, Los Angeles Lakers stuff, Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving, LeVeon Bell to the Bucks, Vikings talk, Russell Wilson talk, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. So yes, Dirk Nowitzki was calling a Timberwolves game.
Yep, I think it was the second. So we played the Mavs, then I think we played another team, and then we played the Mavs again.
Yeah, and it was the second Mavs game.
Yeah, so.
And during that game, they were talking about Karl Anthony Towns and how good he is. And, we've talked about that before, and actually a video that is now moved to private on our channel from years ago. We made a top 5 centers video, and we put Karl Anthony Towns at number 2. Probably would put him at number 1.
That was probably the highlight of our...
Oh, yes.
They'll resurface one day.
I don't know. I have him as private. But anyway, yeah, maybe if we ever do like a Patreon or something, that they'll get access to watch those old videos. Oh, man. But anyway, Dirk Nowitzki talked about how good Karl Anthony Towns is and says that he has the potential to be the best big man of all time. Coming from the best European player of all time, you can't really say he's the best foreign player now because Giannis, Luka's moving up, but I think I'd rather have Dirk's career than Luka as of now. But Dirk's one of the best big men of all time. Big men of all time. And he was talking about how Karl Anthony Towns has... I didn't write down the specific thing. Never mind. But he talked about how Karl Anthony Towns has good footwork, great shooting, that he really just has a few more things he needs to work on. And a big thing is what he needs to work on is effort, mentality, and rebounding.
Yeah, so a lot of talk about...
which we've said.
Karl for the first half of, the first beginning part of the season, outside of this last 6 to 10 games, is Karl has always been a complainer, right? So if he gets hit or something, he'll flail around, or he'll complain to the refs or whatever, and the refs aren't supposed to judge play. They're supposed to call the game how they see it, but you get a kind of persona and refs view you as this kind of player, you're not going to get those calls. But the last 6 to 10 games or whatever, Karl's not been doing that. He's been complaining as much or flailing around or throwing fits or whatever, and he's been getting calls.
So because of Pat Bev.
Yeah. So he's been getting those calls, and he's been getting to the free throw line more, and obviously he's
a good free throw shooter, especially for a big man.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah. I like Karl Anthony Towns, and I was expecting him to want to leave us or get traded these past couple of years. Ant was the pick that helped out, and picking up guys like Pat Bev was really helping him out. And I agree with Dirk. He has the potential to be the best big man ever, but I think unless he picks up rebounding, and if he's playing...
It is also very hard to get rebounds when you got someone like Jared Vanderbilt out there, because he just gets all of them.
You can say that, it's hard to get rebounds with a good rebounder like Jared Vanderbilt, or you can say... if you want to be one of the best of all time, you shouldn't be out-rebounded by a guy like Jared Vanderbilt.
Right.
So I guess there's that. I'd rather have the positive aspect of it, saying Vanderbilt's already really good. Right. But it's also, we're in the league shooting 3-point shots on such a higher clip. Rebounds aren't right under the basket anymore. Right. So if he's under the basket on defense, you're not going to get as many rebounds. That's why guys like Steph Curry can get 10 rebounds. They're not getting 10 rebounds 10 years ago. He's never, like Jason Kidd, a lot of his rebounds were in the paint, which is why his triple doubles were so impressive to me.
Yeah, and Dirk is one of those guys, and I'm not sure what he was referring to exactly, because like Dirk was a great shooter himself, and maybe he was referring to that aspect of Karl Anthony Towns. Where
they talked about his footwork, his finesse work under the paint, and his shooting.
We've always said he's a finesse player. He's not
and he's already, in our eyes, the best big man shooter of all time.
Yeah. So.
Dirk is probably second.
Yeah.
And then, depending on Peja Stojakovic would be a power forward in today's game, but he was a wing in his time. Otherwise, Peja would be way up there too. So I just thought that was really interesting.
We've said all that. Dirk must watch.
He has to watch.
Because we've said all that stuff multiple times in past weeks. So,
but also, staying with Karl Anthony Towns, they played the Lakers the other day, and he injured Anthony Davis because he was playing too rough on Anthony Davis.
Yeah. He did the.
So we talked about last episode of the episode before. We talked about it. Luka got a fine and a technical foul the second he did it. Yeah. Nobody knew what he did, and then it was caught on camera that he had done the too small thing.
Does it all the time,
right? And apparently the NBA is supposed to be doing the NFL. The NBA is supposed to be doing technicals and fines the second you do a too small. And Karl Anthony Towns backed down AD twice. And then put an easy layup over him. Yeah, then
running back, he was like running, and then he was like, boop,
right, he did the too small, and did not get a technical, did not get a fine, and on the replay didn't get a fine. So my guess is because it's against the Lakers. The Lakers are one of those teams, just like
Pat Bev did the same thing too.
Right, they're just one of those teams that more gets away against the Lakers a little bit.
I mean, it's taunting, you know what I mean? So,
which is not a point of emphasis for the NBA like it is for the NFL.
Right.
There was something that just happened in the NFL this week that was... Oh, it was Tom Brady when he was swearing at the coach of the New Orleans Saints. Didn't get a fine or anything. But this gives you a $15,000 fine.
Yeah.
Golden boy. It's okay. We have two last NBA topics. First... Kyrie Irving is coming back.
Right.
He'll only be playing away games.
Right.
Because in Brooklyn, COVID, you have to be vaccinated in order to be in the practice facility and indoor facilities around other people. So he can't play in Brooklyn, but they said he would be able to practice in Brooklyn still. So my thing for this is going to be the same thing I felt the same way. It's weird to allow him back because... if they go in a playoff game where they have somebody has...
Assuming you're a number one seed, you're going to have 4 games that are in your arena.
Right. Even 3. Like, if you're not the 1 seed, you have 3 games in your arena.
Right. Yeah.
It's very weird. And, like, so you play in Toronto. Say they were the 1 seed, Toronto's the 8 seed. He can't play in any of the games.
Exactly.
So, I think it's weird. I understand the reason to do it. Not because they need Kyrie to win, but KD shouldn't be playing 48 minutes unless you want him. Like Harden has done that before, where he played 40 minutes a game, and when he gets to the playoffs, he's gassed.
Right.
KD, who is still coming off that injury, but like
still KD.
I love KD. Right. But still coming off that injury, he shouldn't be playing 48 minutes. Obviously, if he's saying he can and thinks he'll still be good for the playoffs, all the power to him. But it's better off for his health 10 years from now to not play 48 minutes a game now.
Right.
He just did that interview with Draymond where he was talking about his future after basketball. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about when it comes to, like, should he be playing 48 minutes now? No. So Kyrie, to me, is Kyrie coming in to dispel KD of his minutes so that he can play to 35 minutes, 38 minutes in close games. Something like that helps KD after basketball, and it helps the Brooklyn Nets just overall right now. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't, obviously from the political standpoint, I don't think it has anything to do with the vaccine. I think right now this was a pure basketball decision. It's just, if you want to view it as like a which side won, technically Kyrie won because they didn't take away, he lost $4 or $5 million during all this. Right. But if he comes back, he's starting to get paid again. He's made his money, and I don't think he cares that much. He has so many investment or sponsorships that I don't think that's really as big of a deal for him. What was the big deal is not having to get vaccinated but still being able to play, and it looks like that's going to happen. So if you want to say somebody won, Kyrie probably won, but unless you win a championship, neither side won.
Right.
I think this is all for KD, and this is all for Harden.
Yeah,
right now, people
it's a
are
smart basketball decision to bring someone like Kyrie Irving, like his talent.
Nobody gets worse when you put Kyrie Irving.
Right. I mean, we said that if the Nets were healthy, if Kyrie was healthy and Harden was 100%, the Nets probably would have beaten the Bucks.
The Bucks. Well, I mean, they were 2 inches from it with KD's foot.
Yeah.
That's another thing you mentioned. Harden is being talked about as if, like, we even talked about it. He's not that superstar this year. He's not playing.
Yeah,
like
the beginning part of the year, he was a lot worse than he is now. But,
right. But he likes to distribute, and Kyrie likes to be a shooting guard more than a point guard. And I think with Kyrie there, they get to play the more natural roles that they like to play. And I think Harden's going to look better. KD is going to be healthier. It was a basketball decision and a smart basketball.
Yeah, and Joe Harris is going to benefit from that too. So.
Absolutely. He's going to have more open shots.
Yeah.
He's going to have 2 people that are great at passing it. Well, 3 people. KD's pretty good at passing him the ball. It's a win-win overall bringing Kyrie back. If you disagree with him politically, try to take that away because they're all humans on the court anyway. I guarantee your favorite player has some belief in their life that you disagree with. Right. So just take away that. Just think about it sports-wise. This is good for basketball.
It's good for the NBA.
And it's good for the Nets. So Kyrie coming back, very cool. I think the decision was purely basketball. Last thing is Russell Westbrook. People are officially, done with him.
Yeah.
The Lakers apparently are thinking like they want to look to trade. We mentioned it a couple weeks in a row now. Yep.
We're beating a dead Russ horse is what we're doing.
Right, and so I don't really want to talk about this too much because I've heard other people talk about it, and the conclusion is the same everywhere. The Lakers don't have the ability to trade him. Not only does nobody want Russ because of the contract for what you get. You're not getting enough bang for your buck, and the players that they can trade are minimum value or like really cheap.
Right.
So you can't trade them for somebody that's going to make your team better. So unless you're trading like a young player for another rotational guy, because like Buddy Hield is one. In order for them to get Buddy Hield and get off of Russ, they would have to have a third team because there's nobody on the Kings that they would want to get rid of that. They'd want to take on Russ and then also get rid of...
Yeah, and here's the thing. They would probably want THT, but then that's adding more cap that you have to...
Which is why you have to add a third team.
Right.
And it's just... I don't think a third team is going to join in to simply help the Lakers unless the Lakers give up 5 first-round picks, 3 to one team, 2 to another.
The only thing you can think of is, obviously what we talked about last week, would be the Love and Rubio.
And Love sounds like he might get bought out, but the Cavaliers said that they don't plan on buying Kevin Love out as long as they're still above 500.
Right. So you got the Love and Rubio deal, like that could be an option, and then you could do John Wall, but then the Lakers would then have to probably give up draft capital because the salaries are pretty close,
and they're the ones wanting to get off of Russ.
Right.
So they're the ones that have to give up more.
Yeah. So that's the only way. They both have 2 years left, I think. So it's like.
There's just, I don't see any scenario, like some people are, what about Ben Simmons? Why would the Sixers want Russ?
Yeah, it doesn't fit their team at all.
Doesn't fit their team, so there's no point. And again, no third team is going to join that in order to, and also Daryl Morey doesn't want Westbrook again. Just no chance.
Yeah.
No third team is going to want to join that to simply help out the Lakers or the Sixers. Yeah. Unless they end up with a draft haul of, 7 picks, no team is willing to just help out another team.
Yeah.
So I don't see the Lakers being able to do anything
I think those are the only two options. What we said is the only two options that could happen.
Love and Rubio, or a 3-team trade with John Wall.
Yeah.
Right, and so, I think like other things are possible that are like 3-team trades. I was looking it up, and they could, in theory, do. It was Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle, I think, matches the salary for Russ. Again, why? The Sixers, they get nothing from Simmons as opposed to something.
Thybulle's like third in defensive voting.
Right.
So, like, why would they wouldn't get rid of that?
Right, and they lose Simmons there, too, which also defensive, to get Russ, who's not going to really play defense.
Porzingis, maybe?
Right, maybe Porzingis, but do the Mavs want somebody who's going to make Luka worse?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Laker fans, but I don't see it. If they find some way to make a move, I would be less surprised to see an AD trade, and that's not happening.
Right.
I just don't think it's happening. And so I don't think that's very interesting. So that's going to be the end of that. And that's the last basketball discussion, unless you have something else.
No.
So let's move on to football. Everybody loves football. I hope so if you click this. But the Buccaneers...
It says NFL right in the title. I don't know.
Right. The Buccaneers... I know, yeah. The Buccaneers, they picked up Le'Veon Bell with Leonard Fournette being out. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for people that maybe have like Ronald Jones as their starter in fantasy. Because I think Le'Veon Bell will get the passing downs will go to Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, I think it's a smart move. I think Le'Veon Bell's still young enough where he can find use. And it's a veteran. Tom Brady prefers veterans. Some people are saying I don't think Lev Bell is going to be able to pick up the system. I don't think he'll actually be heavily used in this first game. He'll be more of a playoff pickup. That makes a lot of sense, but you'd rather have Le'Veon Bell get those reps now so that when they do get used in the playoffs, he's actually smooth with it as opposed to learning it in the playoffs. So I think you give Lev Bell 10 touches, I think is super smart. Even if it's just 5 carries, 5 passing downs, something like that. Lev Bell's an underrated blocker still at his age. He can go between the tackles.
I think unless you're looking at say like a conference championship, in a specific fantasy football game, where Leonard Fournette, who a random person has been relying on the entire year, is now he's doubtful to play the rest of the regular season, and they've got someone like Ronald Jones in, then you would play Le'Veon Bell. But if you notice that game, and you're Bruce Arians, and you're like, hey, like let's make sure Ronald Jones gets 30 touches, then I'm looking forward to it.
Tom Brady got shut out for the first time in years, and he probably wants to earn back that respect
by handing the ball off 30 times.
Right, he probably does not want to throw 5 touchdowns. He wants to hand the ball off 30 times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. So I honestly think it's going to be a passing game because Tom Brady's going to want to show people he feels
Godwin's out for the year, and Mike Evans is in there.
Right, which is why Antonio Brown and not Cameron Brate.
Gronkowski.
I think they should let
also
Gronk
going
sit.
against.
I think Gronk should sit.
I think they should let him sit too.
I do think Gronk should sit. He was questionable. I think let him rest. And
Cameron Brate's good.
Every time Leonard Fournette's out, Ronald Jones goes nuts.
Yeah.
I feel like they undervalue Ronald Jones a lot.
They do.
And
Lombardi Lenny.
Yeah, and I get that Lombardi Lenny is very good. And I loved him coming out of high school, going to LSU. I was like, he's the next Adrian Peterson. That was way off, but he's very good. But Ronald Jones it's just like the Cincinnati Bengals when they had Giovanni Bernard, Jeremy Hill, and they had a third guy. I can't think of the name, but they had 3 insanely good running backs. You have 2 starting caliber running backs. You use one as if he's a special teamer. And while special teams is amazing and super important, Ronald Jones could be a starter. It's not like the Vikings or something for a team that we can relate to. Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. The skill level is so different. You'd rather give Dalvin 30 carries than 30 and 5 than 20 and 15 or whatever. Right. So with the Buccaneers,
but when Dalvin's out, Madison is a surefire like running back one. So like
right, but with the Fournette and Ronald Jones, the skill isn't really big enough where it's like, oh, Fournette should have 30 carries while Jones only gets 5. You could be fine with 25 and 10. Like
Right.
I think that's fine, or 20 and 15.
yeah. Who's there? OJ Howard.
Yeah.
The third one. So yeah, I mean I'm fine with Gronk. I think it's smart to rest them. I mean, you still are playing for the number 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can still win with the team you have, the backups. So.
And your defense is supposed to be the better part of your team, right?
That's right.
Next on our football agenda, we have 2 potential records going to be broken this year or tied in the NFL. One, Cooper Kupp, first player since Steve Smith in 2005 to get the triple crown of receiving, so receptions, yards, and touchdowns. I would hope he does it in 16 games.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I really I really want these records to count after 16 games, because we're going to see so many records broken in 17
Right.
games. It's not as impressive to me as if I see 2,000 yards receiving, but you hit 2,000 in
Right, it's
game
like-
17.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's like, say, like, what's the rushing record? Like 2,109? Something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So I'm just going to say random. Let's just say the receiving record's 2,000 yards even.
Yeah.
Okay. Cooper Kupp gets 2,000 yards in 16 games.
That's
ties
impressive.
the record.
Yep.
Right? And then in the last game, he gets 1 catch for 1 yard and beats the record.
Just
That's not good.
even though they've clinched it, normally they wouldn't play him
Right.
because they've clinched the playoffs. Something like that.
Do like a
that
little wide
whether
receiver screen.
Right. Wide
Yeah.
receiver screen, he gets the additional catch. He runs it for 1 yard forward.
Runs out of bounds.
Runs
and
out of
it's
bounds 1 yard, and then he sits the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to see stuff like that.
Yeah. So
I think they should probably put either put an asterisk to say
this
this occurred in 17 games,
Right.
or separate the record books from this is when they did 11 games, this is when they did 16
Right.
games, this is when, I think something like that.
Sure.
But it's still impressive either way with Cooper Kupp, because not only was it unexpected, but because I thought Robert Woods was going to go crazy, and then he hasn't played.
Got an injury.
But yeah, Cooper Kupp it's very cool, very good for him. If it ends up being like a record thing, I really hope it's 16 games. The other thing that I think is just as impressive, if not more impressive, first wide receiver since the merger has a chance to lead their team in rushing touchdowns with Deebo Samuel. I'm not surprised by that, because the way they used him at the end of last year, he did a lot of running, but the most rushing touchdowns on the team is surprising. Again, they've had injuries at running back as well.
Right.
But you wouldn't expect a wide receiver to do that. I like Deebo a lot, and I hope he gets it. I really hope. That's a record I hope gets broken, because that doesn't matter what. If anything, it's more impressive that he's broken, because the running backs have 17 games to do it with. So I hope he breaks that one.
Cooper Kupp is actually approaching like Calvin Johnson's record for yards in the season. He's like 300 something off.
He's got 3 or 4 games, 3 games left.
So he's coming up on that too. What's
I don't
more
know.
impressive is if you got Matt Stafford throwing both of those. So
Yeah, you mean the fastest quarterback to 50,000 yards in history? Obviously, the league is a more passing-heavy league now. So one of these guys, Mahomes, Josh Allen, one of these guys is going to break that.
Right.
Most likely. It's still impressive, because the first few years was still a running league for Matt Stafford. So just shows you how good Matt Stafford is. We've always liked Matt Stafford, even when he was on the Lions. It's just you're not winning anything on the Lions.
unless you go against the Vikings.
Unless
or
you go
the
against
Cardinals.
the Vikings. Yeah. Unless you play the last couple weeks. Oh, man. Yeah. But, congrats Matt Stafford. Congrats Cooper Kupp. Congrats Deebo Samuel. Ouch. Next thing is that I wanted to talk about was something I just was randomly thinking about football-wise. This offseason, Russell Wilson. People were talking about he was unhappy. His camp released that he was unhappy with Pete Carroll, unhappy with the team, unhappy with the offense. He wanted to pass the ball more. He was sick of running all the time. And he listed 3 teams he was willing to be traded to, including the Chicago Bears.
We need to talk about the fact that the Seahawks have basically done nothing to help Russell Wilson at all. I think he's still probably one of the highest quarterbacks that's sacked. So their
offensive line wise, yeah, they've
horrible.
gotten good wide receivers. They've given him good running backs, but running backs' stats are also affected by that offensive line.
It's tough because their running back, they've got good running backs. Chris Carson, Alex Collins, they're good running backs, but they get hurt because.
Well, who do they say is always the safety net for quarterbacks? Is a running back and a tight end. The two positions that they haven't really targeted early.
Jimmy Graham had an okay year with them his first year. I don't know.
I think they have done nothing to help Russell Wilson. But the big thing I wanted to talk about it is people are talking about Russell Wilson as if he's like really not that good anymore. The whole talk this week and last week has been like, shut down Russell Wilson for the rest of the year. Russ is no longer... we understand why he hasn't gotten an MVP vote. Russ is overrated. All this sort of stuff. I would love to ask Bears fans, would they rather have Justin Fields, or would you have been happy had they traded for Russ this year? I want to know, because me personally, I'm not a Bears fan. I would much rather go up against Justin Fields than Russell Wilson at this point. Probably won't in 10 years, obviously, because Russ is probably gone at that point. 5 years.
Probably, does getting Russell Wilson change anything?
I think Russ is good enough in himself to at least win you one game by himself.
Okay, so
if
the
anything,
Bears are still bad.
Agreed. Yeah.
So,
but he has a better offensive line than the Seattle.
Right. In my opinion, like Justin, if I'm a Bears fan, Justin Fields has shown me enough that looking forward in the future, we can win with him.
Yeah. Yep.
Justin Fields has to run a lot because he doesn't have the.
The Bears have two good offensive linemen, and that's the thing, is Justin Fields is one of those guys that is run first. He tucks too soon.
Right.
A lot of ex-quarterbacks and a lot of scouts have said he looks to run.
Yeah.
He doesn't move around to create time to throw. He moves around to make sure he has space to run.
Versus us, he
Jalen
used his legs to not only run, but to extend the play and find someone and find people. So like that's where he's got the last 3 weeks. Justin Fields something happened between like 4 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago. Maybe he was told a piece of advice that really resonated with him, but he's getting fired.
Right. He's getting fired. He just jumped. Like, he absolutely has. Last 3 weeks, he looks like a different quarterback.
Sure.
Love it.
So
the last 3 games he's played.
Yeah. So I mean, as Bears fans, I think you just need to let Allen Robinson go, like free him, please, and then start to build around. Start to get some O-line.
Mooney's very good.
Mooney's good. Yeah, Mooney's good. But you got to get more pieces than that.
Mm-hmm. So. It's really, they need to get. Their tight end situation's pretty solid.
They overpaid for Jimmy Graham, but it's whatever.
I think you can never have too many receivers, so I'm fine keep Allen Robinson, pick out another receiver.
Franchise tag him again.
Right. If he doesn't want to stay, let him go. But if he wants to re-sign, give him money, draft another wide receiver, but your focus should be O-line. Honestly, I know you would hate to say, Bears are going to hate this. Bears. Trade somebody from your front seven to free up cap space, get draft capital, because so much money is tied into that front seven. That's why that part of the team is the best part of the team.
Yeah.
But that's also the only part of your team that's shining.
Yeah. Like Akeem Hicks is a freaking monster.
Akeem Hicks is I hate him because he destroys us, but I love him because football.
Yeah.
Like, if you like football, you should like watching the Bears front seven, but especially Akeem Hicks.
Cook can't run against him. They are also like watching the Bears game. They are teetering on the point of like late hits and like dirty play, because like they'll whistle and they'll keep going and they'll finish. Because
they have the tough mentality. We've talked about this so many times too. Teams take on the personality of the city. Chicago's tough.
Yeah, it's like borderline, like someone's gonna get hurt.
Right.
Of this,
and that's just how that's how the Bears play. That's how the fans are when they come to the field. The only time I have seen a fight at the Vikings games that I've been to has been twice. Both Bears games. And then I saw one that it looked like it was going to get started, which was like a Raiders game, but nothing ever happened. But Bears was the only time I've seen a fight. And it's just, That's just the way it is. And that's the way the Bears play. I think if you got rid of one of your studs in the front seven, your team really doesn't lose that much, and get a defensive, a corner preferably, but a corner and an offensive lineman is really the difference between them making the playoffs and not. Is another year under Justin Fields' belt, a corner and an offensive lineman, and I'm terrified of the Bears. So, all this to say, I do think Russell Wilson makes a difference, but I'm interested to see if Bears fans think, does Russell...
It's got to be to a scenario. It's got to be to a team where, like... It's got to be like a Matt Stafford thing. You know, it's got to be probably a young quarterback that hasn't worked out for Russell Wilson. They're going to a bad... the young quarterback's going to a bad team.
Or maybe a guy that used to be a starter on a team that is now a backup. Like a Gardner Minshew or a Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, a team that's like almost there.
Yeah. I don't know. I think obviously Jalen Hurts is good, but the Eagles, you might see some steam pick up about trading Gardner Minshew or like something, because people aren't sure if Jalen Hurts is the option. I think Jalen Hurts has shown potential, but he seems like he's a runner. He becomes a worse version of Russell Wilson in Seattle, but Philadelphia gets better with Russ. I don't think Philly was one of the cities that Russ named, but anyway, I just want to say if there's any Bears fans watching, what do you think? Would you still rather have Russell Wilson? Are you happy that you got Justin Fields? Do you think Russ makes your team better? And what do you want to see with the future of your team? I just want to know. The last section before we go over a couple key games. Bashaud Breeland cut from the Vikings. This will be Vikings talk now. Bashaud Breeland cut from the Vikings after getting into a verbal altercation, which led to a physical altercation to the point where Rick Spielman had to break up the fight.
Yeah.
Not surprised. Bashaud's been kind of an issue off field,
off the field,
on field too. If you notice, he has not been signed yet. He really, hasn't broken bottom 10 for graded corners. He's just
I in my head I was like he's a bottom 5 corner. So you giving him 10 is actually.
Well, I think there was 1 week where he rated.
There's 1 week
99
really good.
Out of 110. So that's bottom.
There
20.
was 1 week where he was really good.
Right.
There's 1 week where he was really good, but.
So it's you need a corner for more than 1 week. But anyway, so he got into a verbal altercation because the Vikings did do something messed up. You don't tell a player that they're benched practice. That is a private meeting conversation. You tell them, hey, by the way, you'll be getting second team reps today because you're no longer starting.
Right.
Apparently he was running out onto the field with the starters, and Spielman and Zimmer were like, no, hey, you're not starting anymore. Dantzler's getting the first team reps this week. And that's why Breeland turned around and he got pissed and he's like, are you kidding me? So they, instead of going they told him to get on the sideline because he's going to be with the second team. Instead, he went to the locker room and he was going to go to the locker room and started taking his cleats off. And that's when people went, the story was, he took his cleats off and threw them. No, he was taking his cleats off because he was going to leave.
Yeah.
And then they said, obviously it's football, so they probably yelled at him, told him, get your cleats on, you're still on the team. Right. And that's when it escalated, got scuffled. There was probably teammates that were saying, calm down. Obviously, it just escalated. So that's how for those of you that didn't hear the story, Breeland was wronged by the Vikings, in my opinion. That is not the way to handle business. Right, we've heard stuff like this with Zimmer before, that he's terrible at the human aspect of football, which is why kickers struggle with him, because kickers are probably the most sensitive player on the field, and he doesn't know how to communicate well with other human beings on an interpersonal level. So I think kickers struggle in Minnesota, which is why Daniel Carlson is kicker of the year this year, whatever. I think that delivery with Breeland flipped it, but Breeland was going to be gone. It's not like he was going to get re-signed.
Yeah.
Both sides treated the situation terribly.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think the Vikings get that much worse without him.
I don't either.
I think Chris Boyd has shown that he's not quite there yet. And
he's very hit or miss.
Right.
He makes a great play, and then he gets a taunting penalty, and then he...
And Dantzler, honestly, he reminds me a lot of Anthony Harris.
I think Dantzler's...
He's in the right spot a lot, but he also a lot of his good plays is simply, a favor because he's in the right spot as opposed to making the right play.
Here's what I think. I think it's 100% a mental thing with Dancer, because when it was him and Gladney, it was like, you're a rookie corner, you're going to start, right? That's what we had to do.
Yep.
And he played really good. Like, he was all defense first rookie team or something like that.
Yeah, first or second.
Yeah, so like, and then now he came into this season and all of a sudden he's like the fourth man.
And he didn't even start the first game, which was weird.
Right. So like, you had Patty P, you had Breeland, and you have McKenzie out there. Those are the three that are out there, and now you're just sitting on the sideline. So like, I'm sure that did something to him mentally, because I'm sure he came into he finished last year and he's like, all right, like,
I was second team All Pro, or I was first team.
I'm pretty sure he was first team. Like, I'm pretty sure he was first team. So like, and then all of a sudden you're not playing, and so now it's like, I don't know.
Well, I do think Harrison Smith has some play in what guys are not starting, but what guys are in favor. And Harrison Smith is pretty harsh on Cam. Maybe it's because he sees potential in him.
Right.
But I mean, he's been caught on camera yelling at Cam more times than I've seen any other player yell at somebody on the Vikings. So maybe Harry,
captain, you gotta listen.
Right. Maybe Harrison Smith has said, like, this guy's just not there yet, and that swayed it. I doubt it personally, but that could be something that's going on, because Harrison is very hard on him,
right?
And I'm sure he knows that. I would love to get Harrison Smith on here, and if that would be one of the questions.
I'm sure you would love if Harrison Smith is hard on you too.
But yeah, if we were able to land a Harrison Smith interview, one of my questions would be, why are you so hard on Cam? Because you seem like, yes, you're a leader on this team, so you have to yell at everyone, but you seem to really go after Cam.
Right.
Is that coincidence? That's just what they're catching on camera? Do you see the majority of potential in him?
Right, because when you see, I mean, obviously, Patrick Peterson's a leader on the team too, but Patrick Peterson's approach with the corners is a lot different than
it's a
what
group
we've
thing.
Seen. Yeah.
Harry kind of has been targeting Cam a bit.
Right. So.
Not targeting like a Sendejo targets his teammates.
Rest in peace.
Sendejo's credited with injuring 3 separate Vikings while he's on the Vikings. But not that level, but verbally.
Yeah.
But anyway, Bashaud's gone. Don't think it really makes the team that much worse. I want Cam Dancer to get a bigger role because I think he's very good, and I would like Harrison Hand to get some time.
Sure. I mean, Harrison Hand's made plays while he's in there.
I don't care how they look in practice. I want to see how they're in games. So before we talk about the Rams versus the Vikings, the last thing I want to talk about is Justin Jefferson has surpassed Randy Moss as the fastest receiver. The receiver with the most receiving yards in their first 2 seasons in NFL history.
Yeah, and I think he needs like 21 yards to pass Odell or something like that.
He has the most already in the first 2 seasons. In his first 2 seasons, he has the most in NFL history.
I thought Odell was above him.
Randy Moss was the number 1.
Oh.
According to the NFL Twitter profile, they posted a tweet saying about Justin Jefferson.
Odell had like 27-51 or something like
that.
Well,
then if that's the case, the NFL themselves posted poorly. Vikings versus Rams this week.
Let's go back to Justin Jefferson real quick.
Okay.
Justin Jefferson has 9 touchdowns on the year as a Vikings wide receiver. The entire Philadelphia wide receivers have 8 combined. So there's just more salt in the wound of...
they could have had him. I mean, if the Eagles had Justin Jefferson, he's not scoring on them either because they don't have somebody to get him the ball.
Yeah.
He can watch Jalen Hurts run by him, though.
Yeah.
If Gardner Minshew was starting, he'd probably have good passes to him. Actually, if they had drafted Justin Jefferson, they'd probably still have Carson Wentz, who's also doing well.
He's got to hand the ball off to J-Train, that's it.
Well, I mean, his passing stats are pretty solid, too. He has low attempts, but high completion. Yeah. Vikings versus Rams this week, though. Vikings, I believe, are... Underdogs by a decent amount.
Yeah. Why? Because Dalvin Cook's out?
No, it's 3. Rams are 3-point favorites in Minnesota. Dalvin's out, though, so I expect that line to change. I think get Kene involved because I think Madison's good, but he's shown that he's better as a dispelling back as opposed to... there's talks. I was listening to a former NFL player who was saying that his guys that are still involved with the team say that Kene is the one that they want to become the backup. And that if Kene does well, they might not re-sign Madison.
Well, he had like 2 carries for 27 yards.
Right, yeah.
So
Well, he's a spark. He's very Tony Pollard and a Zeke. They expect Dalvin Cook to run between the tackles, so they're not prepared when like a Tony Pollard comes in and boom. When Kene comes in, boom.
Right.
So I like Madison a lot, but I want Kene involved.
Yeah, and Madison could get starter money somewhere. So.
I am expecting the Aaron Donald to break the sack record in a single game.
Okay.
Last week, the Vikings kind of patched together their offensive line, and it did not go well. Their offensive line was absolutely terrible against a very good front seven, probably the best front seven in the league potentially, and but they don't have Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald could get a sack against anyone on our side except Brian O'Neill, I think. Yeah. Brian O'Neill's the only one that can guard him, and he's on the far side, opposite side of Aaron Donald.
Yeah, it's a big ask for...
you're asking a rookie to guard Aaron Donald, or you're asking Oli Udoh, Ezra Cleveland.
Oli's not playing.
Right, well,
exactly.
So. Well, and that's the thing is, so Mason Cole was the worst graded offensive lineman in football last week.
As a guard.
Right, as a guard.
Right. He's good. He's probably upper half as a center.
I don't know what happened to Wyatt Davis.
Yeah, I don't know why they won't give him a shot.
Yeah, that was another thing. Same guy that was talking about Madison and Kene said that nobody knows why Wyatt Davis isn't playing, and that it has to be a coach's decision. That the coaches see something that we don't.
Yeah.
So Wyatt Davis,
wasn't he like the highest rated guard coming out?
He won the Offensive Lineman of the Year award coming out of college. Yeah.
So I mean, like obviously
from Ohio State,
the best thing we probably could put together would be Darisaw, Cleveland, Cole, Davis, and O'Neal. Yeah. But we're putting Oli Udoh and Shitbury in there.
Oli Udoh has been better than Mason Cole
as a guard. But Mason Cole's far better
to be
than
a center.
Bradbury,
yeah. It should be if Wyatt Davis isn't going to play, and I don't know if Wyatt Davis isn't going to play, it should be Darisaw, Udoh, Cole.
No, Cleveland,
Cole, Udoh, O'Neal.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. So I don't know what the Vikings are doing. So because of that, because the offensive line is the way it is, and no Dalvin Cook, I'm expecting. First of all, I'm expecting CJ Ham to get a ton of snaps for blocking.
Right.
And I'm expecting Aaron Donald to... I'm also expecting Aaron Donald to get a batted pass or two. I don't think the Vikings can handle Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald is good enough to win the game for them.
Yeah.
And Leonard Floyd. I'm very scared of Leonard Floyd, except he has to go up against O'Neal.
Yeah. O'Neal's okay.
Mm-hmm. He's very, very good.
He's very, very okay. He's very great.
Cooper Kupp is going to shred. Matt Stafford always does well against the Vikings.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the Rams win. The Rams are 3-point favorites in Minnesota. This is one of those. This is the nail in the coffin. This is the Mike Zimmer's probably going to be done after the season game. This is going to be the Vikings are for sure out of the playoffs game. If the Vikings win, it's basically a 50-50 shot to get into the playoffs. If they lose, it's like a 10% shot.
Yeah, I mean, if we win every game, we're in the playoffs.
Right.
So, because we're the 7th seed right now, so if we keep winning, we're still
They have to win
seed.
2 of 3 of their next 3 to make the playoffs. And it's Bears, Packers, Rams. They have to win 2 out of 3.
Rams, Packers, Bears.
I don't think it's happening, but so my bold prediction is 2 batted passes and 3 sacks for Aaron Donald.
I'll say interception, Eric Kendricks.
I like it. Next game, we have a few games that we do want to talk about this week. Last week, not a lot of good games. And that showed it was upset week of the century. That showed this week, tons of good games we can talk about. The first one we're going to talk about, though, Dolphins-Saints. Dolphins have won 6 games in a row. The last 2 quarterbacks to win their last 6 starts, or the only 2 quarterbacks to win their last 6 starts are Patrick Mahomes and Tua Tagovailoa. I think the Dolphins have a chance to beat the Saints here. It's, for me... So, is it Taysom Hill starting? Or
I think it's Taysom Hill.
Okay. I do think Taysom Hill can take over against the Dolphins. They have a very good defense, but I do think this is a quarterback that I don't know if they can handle. Even though I don't think Taysom Hill's great.
Right.
I don't even think Taysom Hill's a good quarterback. But you have a defensive-minded head coach who's very good and up-and-coming versus one of the best offensive coaches that we've seen. If you only started watching football within the last 10 years, he might be the best offensive head coach we've seen, is Sean Payton.
Is Sean Payton going to be there, though? Didn't he get
COVID
last week,
but he's able to come back, and if not, they have their defensive coordinator as their head coach again.
Seemed to work out well,
which worked out very well. So I think the Saints stop the Dolphins win streak here, but what I want is the Dolphins to
keep going. Yeah.
Well, every year it's there's always a team that people want to root for because it's been so long since they've been good, but every year it's like this is the Dolphins' year, and the past few years.
I mean, they won their first game. Mm-hmm. They beat the Patriots. I think their first game.
Something like that.
Yeah, they beat the Patriots the first game. Then they lost 7 straight, and you're like, all right, here we go. These are the Dolphins, and now they've won 6 in a row.
Yeah.
So, they're seeing the Bills struggle, and they're like, we could make the wild. Like, we can make the wild.
If they make the playoffs, they broke the record for the team with the longest loss streak to make the playoffs. No team has ever lost 7 in a row and made the playoffs. Yeah, it would be the first team ever. The other teams like Bengals, Lions, like Browns, when the Browns finally made the playoffs, the whole NFL except for the rest, like Steelers, Ravens fans, were upset. But Bengals are now one of those teams. If the Bengals made the playoffs, I'd be like, yes, go Bengals! Like,
more on that later.
Right. And so there's some teams. I really hope the Dolphins win, but I think the Saints win. My bold prediction would be Taysom Hill 2 rushing touchdowns.
Okay, I'm gonna take the Dolphins.
Okay.
My bold prediction is Myles Gaskin touchdown.
Oh, I like it. They don't use Myles Gaskin, so I don't see that. But
yeah, they said
I'll go with a Gesicki touchdown for them.
Let's hope.
Oh man, let's hope. I have Gesicki on my fantasy team. He is Gaskin. And if we both win this week, it's me versus him in the championship.
Yeah, but it's not looking good.
The next game, Ravens, Bengals.
Wow.
So this could determine the AFC North
Most
representative.
likely will, I think.
For the playoffs.
The Browns suck.
Browns are falling off.
Pittsburgh sucks.
I think the Pittsburgh is the team that people think is like, oh, whatever, but I don't think Pittsburgh's good.
Yeah. Well, because they're always like, oh, they're the favorite. But then it's like, no, they're not.
The Bengals are 3-point favorites in Cincinnati, so it's kind of a pick 'em on a neutral field.
It depends what Bengals team shows up.
Well, I don't think Lamar's back yet.
Did you see what Huntley did last week?
Yeah, missed a fourth conversion. He was like 0 for 3.
Yeah, they should have just kicked the extra point and gone to overtime and chanced it. But.
I mean, I like Huntley. I think he is one of those guys that's hard to prepare for. It's more of a coaching thing, though, to me. It's because people said the same thing about McSorley. Oh, McSorley, what comes out of nowhere? Oh, how about we give credit to the coach who seems to be able to make any quarterback look like they have potential?
Right. No, he played great against the Packers.
It's more the defense, special teams, and coaching is why the Ravens are so good, which is why I want the Bengals to win, but I think the Ravens are going to win because Zach Taylor is super outmanned, and I think the Bengals organization wants Zach Taylor gone, but if they make the playoffs, they can't fire him.
Right.
Or it'd be weird if they fired him. But look at the Packers. The Packers fired McCarthy after doing well. He just did poorly for a year, so you never know.
I think another one of these matchups you need to watch out for is no one can really guard Mark Andrews right now, too. Mm-hmm. So, like...
Mark Andrews the second?
What?
Mark Andrews the second? Mark Andrews 2?
Mark Andrews 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's the robot
2.0.
version. Yeah,
got
the
it.
robot version.
Okay.
Yeah, no one can guard Mark Andrews right now. In my opinion, he's like tight end 2 right now.
Behind Kelsey?
Behind Kelsey.
Or behind Kittle?
Kelsey, because Kittle didn't do that well last week, but the 2 weeks prior he did really well.
When it comes to like physical talent and on the field, I would put Kittle above Andrews, but when it comes to production, you gotta give it to Andrews.
So, he's obviously a mismatch for the Packers. So
it's gonna be Jesse Bates as the help on Andrews, which is helpful, but then you let Hollywood Brown loose.
Yeah, who had 14 targets, but only like 10 catches for 43 yards or something.
Right. So
he gets peppered with targets too, but it's just...
I think the Ravens win
Yeah.
overall. My bold prediction, however, would be a Mark Andrews touchdown for the Ravens side.
Or 4.
And I'm going to go Jesse Bates sack.
Ooh, I'm going to say a Cincinnati Bengals defensive touchdown.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's
And
nice.
then, let's see, for the Ravens, how about a Hollywood Brown 60-plus
99-yard touchdown?
60-plus yard touchdown reception?
I like it.
I do too. I love it.
The final game we're going to talk about is Colts versus Cardinals, because we would normally talk about like the Niners Titans, but we don't talk about Thursday football. So Colts Cardinals, Cardinals Niners have similar stakes here. Colts have been looking awesome. The Cardinals are only 1-point favorites, which I don't like because they've been underdogs all year, and ever since they've been favorites, that's when they're losing.
Right.
Maybe that's just what they need. I think Kyler Murray came back too early, so he's not playing as well as he could. And I've been hearing a lot about Kyler Murray in the locker room, how he's kind of leaving without the team. He's not really, like, he's captain because he's quarterback, not captain because he acts like a captain. So I'm kind of worried about the Cardinals, if I'm being honest, and I think that's a big coaching thing.
Right.
And I think the Colts have a great coach, and the Colts have the MVP on their team, Carson
They don't
Wentz.
have Tom Brady or...
Carson Wentz.
Tom Brady and Rodgers are like leading right now, and I'm like,
Jonathan Taylor.
J-Train.
I've said it before. If Derrick Henry didn't get it last year, Jonathan Taylor can't get it this year, because that's not fair to Derrick Henry. Just not. It's a quarterback award, whatever. Jonathan Taylor is a monster. I don't think the Cardinals have the rush defense to stop him. I think they have a great pass defense, but when it comes to rushing defense, I don't think they can stop Jonathan Taylor. I think the Colts are going to upset him, and this is the downward spiral of the Cardinals. If the Cardinals lose out and the Niners win out, the Cardinals will be a 10-win team that don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think there's a good chance of that happening. There might be a chance that the Cardinals squeak it out, but the Niners are getting hot at squeak it out. And there's a chance that the Cardinals, I really think there's a chance that they do squeak it out. But
I think there's a chance that you get 3 teams from the
NFC, the
NFC
best
West.
team, the best division in football. The Cardinals are falling at the worst time. The Niners getting hot at the best time. Jimmy G is getting 100 passer rating every game.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel's amazing. Kittle's doing really well. Their defense is nuts. I think the Cardinals lose this game to the Colts. And my bold prediction is going to be a Rock Ya-Sin interception.
Okay. I'm going to say the Cardinals squeak it out. And how about a Zach Ertz touchdown?
Zach Ertz? Yeah, I could see both. I could see that. I could see the Cardinals winning. I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, and that's it. That's all we got. That's all.
Woo!
That's all the matchups. Woo! It hurts, but woo!
It hurts.
It hurts. If you were watching my stream the other day, you could hear that a lot. But yeah, so that's it. That's it for our sports section. Really hope you enjoyed it this week. We had a lot of good games to cover. There was actually news in both basketball and football, so I hope we covered those for you to the extent that you wanted. And like we said in the beginning, if you want to help this channel grow and continue supporting us, make sure to like, subscribe, follow if you're on Spotify. We have new episodes every week. Yes, it's the holidays, but we got an episode this week, we got an episode next week, and we're just going to keep pumping it out. We're going to keep squeaking these episodes out. You all look great today. Go out in the world and make a difference. GG.
GG.